Well, there's no doubt as world leaders gather here in Rome for the G20 this weekend, the key issue clearly is of climate change ahead of COP26, which is due to be held in Glasgow from tomorrow onwards. And it is interesting listening to the Prime Minister on the way over. It is, of course, the UK chairing COP, that he very much views this as an attempt to try and get world leaders to do more, to make more commitments when it comes to climate change targets. He talked about the serious consequences he believes that climate change could cause the world in the century ahead, that he essentially had a big conversion moment as Prime Minister to the seriousness of this all, talking about and referencing Rome in this and the fall of the Roman Empire, how humanity as a whole could potentially see our civilization, our world go backwards like it did after the fall of the Roman Empire, and that could consign future generations to a life that is far less agreeable to our own. He also pulled out a football metaphor, if you like, talking about how he thought that we were at half-time and that ultimately we as humanity were 5-1 down, but had time to try and turn things around. The big question, though, of course, for Boris Johnson as he preps these world leaders ahead of COP, is essentially what does success look like in Glasgow? He keeps talking about how those commitments of zero carbon by various countries in recent days and weeks are really important, whether that's in 2040, 2050, 2060, but also trying to keep alive this fundamental target that was set in France of keeping global temperatures at 1.5 degrees, that increase at 1.5 degrees, though that is looking increasingly unlikely, it must be said. But this is, he says, a crucial moment, and that's where an awful lot of his focus will be as he talks to world leaders here in Rome. It must be said, ahead of that, and he is travelling back to Glasgow tomorrow, there is one other big issue on the agenda, at least for Britain and particularly France, and this is this war of words that we've really seen over fishing in the last couple of days. We know, for example, the French ambassador was hauled in front of the Foreign Office Minister only yesterday about impounding a British ship in the Channel. Also, we know there's been a big row, hasn't there, about the licences that have been made available both to French and British ships as these new Brexit arrangements have come into place. Well, Boris Johnson saying that he will do whatever is necessary to try and protect British interests when it comes to fishing. We asked him about that on the plane over, making clear that he didn't like the language and the words that have been used by the French, though he did say of the French President Emmanuel Macron that France is an oldest close ally and friend, and the ties that bind us together are stronger than the turbulence that currently exists in our relationship. But we also have heard from Emmanuel Macron overnight, giving an interview to the Financial Times, in which he talks about how there is a big sign of credibility when it comes to the commitments he believes Britain has made through those Brexit deals that it must keep to. Ultimately, in the end, as I say, this is a bit of war of words. There's much talk about the action France may well take if it's not resolved. Talk about fundamentally, potentially, an impact on trades. Boris Johnson saying that he didn't hope his French friends, as he put it, would go there. And we are expecting these two to have a kind of what they call a brush by here at G20. I suspect fisheries will be very much top of the agenda along with climate change when they do talk. It is a reminder sometimes of the frictions and the difficulties, of course, as this new kind of post-Brexit era comes into force, and the trying to work out where the settlement is. But ultimately, this meeting of the G20 due to get underway in the next couple of hours. And while those issues will be happening on the sidelines and things like Iran will be talked about too, and the nuclear deal involved there, it is climate change and that COP summit in Glasgow that really will dominate.